Hello and welcome to the Best Practice Institute webinar, GE Money and Kelly OCG, Managing the Talent Acquisition Process through Process Improvement, Expansion, and Lean. My name is Samantha Frankart, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to Zachary and Claudine. Zachary Misko is the Global Director for the RPO practice of Kelly Outsourcing and Consulting Group. Zachary has worked with the HR leaders at companies like Citigroup, GE, Land's End, and Biotherapeutics, to name a few. Claudine Elliott Overton is the former Exempt Staffing Center of Excellence leader for GE Money Americas, responsible for large-scale talent acquisition initiatives. Today it is my pleasure to introduce to you Zachary and Claudine. Zachary and Claudine, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Samantha. My name is Zachary, as Samantha said, and we're just getting our slides loaded up, so you should be seeing an image shortly. And while we're waiting for that, let me just take an opportunity to thank you for joining us and tell you a little bit more about Kelly OCG to set the framework so you understand the relationship that we're going to be talking to you about today. The Recruitment Process Outsourcing, or RPO practice of Kelly Outsourcing Consulting Group is a global leader in managing enterprise-wide talent acquisition process, sourcing, and recruitment solutions. We've been in business since 1995, and 100% of our global business capabilities are dedicated to RPO. We have a team of recruitment professionals across the globe and work across over 40 countries to provide recruitment solutions for clients ranging from 75 to 7,000 annual hires. I think one of the things as I speak and I attend conferences across the globe, one of the biggest levels of confusion in terms of RPO is what is the difference between RPO and executive search? And when I think about that question, I think that executive search is really just a component of RPO. And recruitment process outsourcing is just that. It's managing the recruitment process for a client or company. And as an RPO provider, we receive the requisition, we post that requisition, develop the sourcing strategy to attract candidates, qualify those candidates, conduct any minimum qualification or pre-screening, organize phone interviews, set up on-site interviews with hiring manager. We have direct relationships with the hiring and HR managers to accomplish these items. We then work with them and help them with selection and conducting any of the pre-employment requirements, such as background, drug testing, fingerprinting, etc., and then assist with the offer, letter, logistics, and in some cases, onboarding of the hire. So that's really RPO in a full scale, so you kind of get the lay of the land, per se, in terms of how is it different from just executive search. So I said executive search is a component, and that may be a tool that an RPO provider uses, although one of the benefits of using an RPO provider is reducing cost per hire and thereby reducing overall spend from an executive agency as well. An important component within RPO is having a good relationship, and I'm happy to have Claudine Elliott Overton on the phone today, who is going to walk us through the relationship that Kelly Outsourcing Consulting Group and GE Money has had over the course of the last 7 years, 8 years actually, and I think that's key in sustaining a long-term relationship and being able to do that through an RPO. An RPO provider oftentimes can come into the picture and demonstrate their effectiveness and reduction in cost, time, etc. after year one. Many times because there's just not a central process in place. The companies don't have the right metrics or technology to report things that they need to, and some of those efficiencies just aren't there. So I don't want to say it's easy, but it's very plausible for an RPO provider to come in year one and demonstrate their ROI to the client. I think the key comes in, how do you then continue to sustain that level of success and relationship between a client and an RPO provider years 2, 3, 4, and so on. And that's really what we're going to help demonstrate and talk to you about today, and how we've been able to continue a strong relationship with GE Money over the course of 8 years while continuing to meet the changing demands and challenges within that business, as well as being held accountable to continuing to provide and demonstrate our success within metrics, hiring, quality, etc. So that being said, and there is an opportunity for you to ask questions, I believe. You can enter those online as you're going through the presentation. If you have a question, please enter that. At the end of this presentation, Claudine and I will be available to answer questions, time permitting. For any question we can answer, we'll work to get back to you with an answer via email. So that being said, let me turn it over to Claudine at this point, who's going to talk to you and paint the picture about who GE is and then get into some specifics of how the program began and how it continued to evolve over the years. I'll also be available, and if necessary, Claudine and I can tag team on some of the things that come up during our presentation. Again, thank you, and Claudine, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Zachary, and good afternoon, everyone. Zachary set the stage for the Kelly Outsourcing and Consulting Group's RPO practice, so let me now set the stage for the GE Money business and really where it fits into the overall organization. In 2008, GE restructured the company to best utilize a strong leadership team while maximizing synergy and execution. And the business was restructured into 4 different groups, which you see here: the infrastructure technology, infrastructure energy, capital, and then NBC Universal. The GE Money business fell into the GE Capital group as a portion of the business that really focuses on commercial finance and created to leverage opportunities to grow globally and reduce costs. So GE Money, just like the program that we're going to talk about today, really evolved throughout the course of the past 8 years. Whereas the business was originally focused on private label credit cards, primarily in the U.S. market, it expanded in the early 90s with the formation of the global consumer finance business. And through more than 50 acquisitions over a decade, the business grew to approximately $150 billion in assets, servicing more than 100 million customers in over 50 countries. And at one point, which I will speak to in a bit, the range of products included mortgages, personal loans, credit cards, auto loans, sales finance, and retailer financial services, all of which the Kelly RPO team provided talent acquisition resources for. In 2004, GE Consumer Finance launched a new global brand, and this was GE Money, which created a powerful new global financial services brand that leveraged rapid growth in the industry at the time. Today, GE Money is rebranded under GE Retail Finance, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the future of this presentation as well. Getting into the partnership and really the evolution of that partnership between Kelly and the GE business. In 2000, a true process management movement was growing within the GE organization, and GE Money, then branded GE Card Services, was preparing to take talent acquisition to a new level. A talent acquisition process owner was appointed, and the evolution of the relationship with Kelly RPO began. Over the course of the 8 years that you see here on this timeline, Kelly has partnered to create a sustainable process based on flexibility and a cost-effective model, which has really supported GE's recruitment brand and set the money business apart as an employer of choice. From implementation to cost reductions and global expansions, Kelly RPO and GE have partnered throughout the course of these 8 years for continuous improvement. Now, prior to the decision to outsource, we really looked at gathering VOC, voice of the customer data, and baseline data around the current GE Money hiring. The results included a decentralized staffing process, inconsistent interview practices, and variable candidate quality from a small number of sources. Moreover, the cost of hire, as you can see down in the baseline metrics at the bottom left, was over $9,000 per fill. And it typically was taking 3 months plus to fill positions. So in short, this was an unsustainable process in the eyes of the current organization. Based on feedback that we received from the business, the newly appointed team started to categorize customer needs, which you will see along the left-hand side of the screen. And we compared those needs against GE Money's ability to deliver in the current decentralized process that we had. In addition, we spoke with a parade of vendors that told GE just what we needed to reform our troubled staffing function. In the end, the clear choice was Kelly RPO. They had the competitive advantage in employing experienced, caring people to support the GE Money process. And we found that through our conversations with the organization, where GE Money had the ability to deliver in certain areas, process, value proposition, defining the offer, the Kelly RPO team was really able to support us in meeting all of the customer needs. So we'll move on to the actual implementation. And the key to the solution we devised was in the partnership that we created, where a centralized staffing process and a flexible team combined to work together. The shift to centralization included a customized candidate application website and a standardized, more thorough screening process to enhance both candidate quality, service levels, and candidate experience. In year one, we also partnered to validate the baseline costs and other metrics, and you'll see that in year one, the costs went up. Now, you may wonder why would that happen when Zachary earlier mentioned that typically in year one, an RPO provider can really show their return on investment. Well, what we realized is that by centralizing the process, we found all of these costs hidden within the businesses. And very often we find that when comparing cost per hire with some of our other business partners, they are not all compared apples to apples. So what happened is when we pulled all of these costs out of the individual businesses and developed a cost of hire model, we actually were paying more for staffing services than we had originally realized. And it was through the support of the Kelly RPO team that we were able to track these costs and realize how much we actually paid paid to staff our business. Now, you'll also notice that the cycle time did very quickly begin to go down through the support of this centralized process from the Kelly team. Now, the process we implemented was simple and thus sustainable. It's very similar to that which the team uses today. And although we do strive for continuous improvement, the core process has not changed a great deal over the years. And really the key to this process, the most important piece, is that shared ownership that you see here between the Kelly RPO team and the GE hiring community. And that shared ownership has been seen as one of the true benefits to the partnership that we have. In addition to that, the end-to-end solution strategy, a strategy for hiring logistics, which ensures consistency, standardization, efficiency, and compliance. The management of our intranet-based applicant tracking system, automation of processes that had once been done manually, and really the measurement, as I spoke to earlier, of those staffing and activity costs, and the establishment of our new benchmark and goals for the future. So 2001 was a very good year for the implementation. It went well. GE recognized over $2,000 per hire savings, which speaks to Zachary's earlier comment about that ROI. Once you know what your baseline is, then you're able to look at how quickly you can reduce costs. Cycle time, as you can see in the bottom left, also reduced, and the program was really beginning to gain momentum. So true to GE form, we recognized the Kelly RPO capabilities and asked them to do more. We asked the Kelly team to tackle our non-exempt high volume process, which was mainly staffing the call centers. And so unfortunately this slide did not come out as well as it should, but this is a funnel in which you will see the number of applicants that come into the process. And we established that non-exempt high volume process in 2002, and since that time the Kelly RPO team has touched more than 1.8 million candidates for over 11,212 hires, which is quite amazing. The numbers really speak for themselves. And although we won't go into great detail about the high volume process, it truly speaks to the partnership that we have and our ability to continuously improve throughout the course of our relationship. So in 2003, the business that we knew as GE Money really began to change. This is where we added those multiple products and service lines that I spoke to earlier, the credit cards, the personal loans, the retail financing, mortgages, auto financing, were all added to the product mix. And we knew that the talent acquisition landscape was going to change drastically. Because of the addition of many of these service lines, we needed new and unique talent to drive these businesses, individuals that we hadn't had to attract before. And so we turned to the Kelly RPO team in order to support some of these initiatives, as well as to establish a customer satisfaction survey so that we had a better understanding of the satisfaction of our hiring community throughout the business. Our baseline for the Voice of the Customer survey was 3.8 out of 5.0, and we'll watch that go up throughout the course of our relationship. So as I mentioned, in 2003, or pre-2003, GE Money focused mainly on credit cards, and then post-2003, loans, retail financing, mortgages, auto financing, and insurance products. This really created the need for us to expand. And so we started to look to the Kelly RPO team for another continuous improvement initiative. And as the business transformed, these special initiative staffing projects with the Kelly team came about. We began to involve third-party vendors. This was a decision, a strategic decision that the GE organization made. We knew that as we needed to staff very different needs, we would need to build a pipeline of talent. And so the Kelly team developed a third-party vendor management process, which we used. They designated a vendor management system to meet the needs of our growing business. And also, sharing talent around the globe became a very important focus for us. So Kelly again partnered to support the effort and helped us to manage our short-term international rotation programs, in which individuals were able to spend time in another area in order to share knowledge and support some of the initiatives, strategic initiatives around the business. Finally, Kelly RPO partnered to support both recruitment and management of our world-class leadership programs, in which we brought new leadership development talent into the organization. And it's really important to note that as the business began to change, so did the costs associated with acquiring that talent. At this point, third-party vendors or search firm usage was nearing an all-time high. Now, keep in mind, this was a strategic initiative for GE. However, we did also need to continue to watch our costs, and I'll speak to this a little more in the future. So as we sourced more and more industry talent, 2005 brought a significant increase in the number of exempt external hires for GE. And in direct correlation, we see that the cost per hire hit an all-time high of $10,847. Cycle time was still very good at 45 days, which is better than industry standard in the financial services industry. We typically look at it being about 52 days. We typically look at it being about 60. VOC, you will see, has risen, and our surveys, our satisfaction surveys, we're now at 4.5 on a 5.0 scale. So let's talk a little bit more about that significant shift in our hiring and how that was impacting the business. The external hiring mix had changed, whereas we typically saw about 65% of our hires coming from the business internally. We were now seeing 65% of our hires come externally from competitors like American Express, Wells Fargo, MasterCard, all of those that you see on the left. And GE Money was truly in the midst of a great change. These new products and services that we were offering needed niche talent to support them and to support the transformation around the introduction of those products into the marketplace. So we weren't the only financial services organization with these niche hiring needs, and we began to use all possible methods to win this talent war, which really saw the increase of search firm hiring. It was almost 11% of our total source of hire at that point. So again, like all successful partnerships, we talked with the Kelly RPO team and worked together to determine a strategy to reduce the search firm hiring and thus our costs. We embarked on a lean quality initiative, which really was the beginning of our lean journey for the GE Money organization. Through value stream mapping, we reviewed opportunities to improve our process and define what our future state would look like. Working closely with Kelly, we formed Kaizen teams to affect positive change within the business. Our challenge was to enhance the applicant experience through the reduction in process delays and redundancies, improve search strategies, and reduce costs. No small order, especially during this time when the entire financial services industry was on fire. In the end, we were able to meet more stringent federal compliance standards while maintaining cycle time, quality of service, and reducing costs. So as you see, our cycle time continued to go down. We reduced it by 2 additional days. Process improvements included a requisition approval process, to include a search strategy conversation with the HR community, reducing the number of positions that immediately went to search, because it had become automatic for a hiring manager to send a position to a search firm as opposed to looking at other avenues that may be available or to truly scouring the internal landscape. We'd hired a great number of external folks in 2004 and 2005, and some of those new employees had the skills that we needed for these new opportunities. So it was really time to start looking internally once again. We also did a lot around education, educating the hiring community and the HR community about the costs of using search firms and outside vendors. We reduced cancellations, tried to get the business to be more strategic in workforce planning and thinking about which positions were necessary. With less retained positions, there was a greater use of low-cost providers as well. And there was a great decrease in the number of external hires that came from search firms at this time. We were able to reduce that by 12% over the previous year. So in 2007 and 2008, we really looked at transforming the program. We had gone through this entire lean process, which took 8 weeks to prepare for, a good 3 weeks to work through, and as I said earlier, it's a never-ending journey. We really continue to drive continuous improvement through lean principles and methodologies. However, once we were done with the initial workout and we had a future state value stream and had worked through many of our Kaizen events, it was time to take a look at what we needed to do to structure appropriately to continue to meet the needs of the business. And I'll speak to the way that we structured the team specifically in just a moment. But the other piece that we implemented with the support of the Kelly RPO team was really the shared services sourcing and logistics. By implementing Kelly's shared services sourcing group and really establishing effort around sourcing without going to search, we were able to reduce that search firm utilization by another 70%. Today, we are using search firms 2% of the time to fill positions within this business, which is really unheard of in the marketplace. And we also asked Kelly to provide some global support. Now you'll see cost per hire has continued to come down drastically. And here we were at $3,600, and this is all in. This includes all of the search firms. It includes all of the staffing overhead. It includes the vendor cost. It includes the marketing. This is everything. And I'll speak to the way that we achieved this in just a minute once I talk a little bit about how we structured the team. We really started by defining the COE leadership. At the time, I was the America's Exempt Staffing Leader. And Kelly provided an account manager who supported the business as a whole and managed the team of individuals that worked on the GE program. We then took a look at creating business teams and providing recruiting consultants for each of those businesses. These recruiting consultants' main responsibility was really to be the recruitment expert to that business. So they understood the forecasts, They understood the strategy. They understood what the business needs were in order to help each of the business leaders to achieve their talent acquisition goals. These business teams were responsible for the ultimate hire, and they were really the individuals who drove the process for the business. Hiring managers many times have so much on their plates that talent acquisition becomes number 20 on a list of 25 things to do in a day. These individuals who were in the business teams were really there to be the right hand to the hiring community and to support them through their talent acquisition knowledge. It also provided the hiring community with one direct contact instead of multiple contacts, which they had had in the past. We had to have some regional teams based on the limited volume in Canada and Latin America, but what we did was found regional experts to support those groups as well. And then we layered in the shared service component. So we had the shared services sourcing team. This team is functionally aligned. So the sourcing recruiters are functional experts, finance, HR, marketing, quality. These individuals know the industry. They know where to find the passive candidates that are out there in the marketplace. And this is how we achieved great strides in reducing our search firm fees, because this shared services sourcing group really leveraged its capability to hire external talent through passive sourcing channels the same way in which a search firm works at a greatly reduced cost. And finally, we added the shared service logistics and compliance team. Once again, these individuals were behind the scenes. They were supporting the business teams and could be scaled up and down based on the need of the business. These individuals were cross-trained over all of the businesses and thus were able to support whatever business had a hiring need at the time. So instead of having full life cycle recruiters doing a wing-to-wing process, we were able to build, with Kelly's support, a very flexible and scalable model that allowed us to sustain our process during peak hiring or during very low hiring, which I'm going to talk about a bit in the future. So that sourcing COE model, which I outlined earlier, featured shared services recruiters, which we discussed and you saw, an off-site sourcing engine, which really means that these individuals were using many sourcing techniques in order to find the passive candidates, the candidates that weren't applying to the websites or to the job boards or to any of those media. These are the individuals that are gainfully and happily employed, but they have the skills that we are looking for within our organization. They're the individuals that we really wanted to talk to in order to drive the transformation of the organization. They brought the skills we needed, and the team was able to go out and help us find them by leveraging all of the sourcing tools and knowledge in their toolkit. We also had those subject matter experts who were functionally aligned. They were the individuals that were blogging with the marketing experts that we needed. They are the individuals that are part of LinkedIn networking groups that are aligned with the individuals that we needed. They were truly the functional experts within the financial services industry that helped us to dig up the talent that we so desperately needed at a much lower cost. In addition, they were accountable to specific metrics, and those metrics were all based on the hire, because it's really important important for the sourcing team to achieve that hire. Now, there's activities, of course, that lead to that metric, things like the number of calls that they make, the number of candidates they present, the number of interviews that those candidates are scheduled for, and then ultimately the hire, which is really the KPI for this group. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we reduced the reliance on search firm through this model. And as you can see, in 2005, we spent $5.3 million on search firm usage. In 2007, it was 1.3, and that number continues to go down. So 2009, the business is again changing. As I mentioned earlier, the GE Money business has scaled up and has scaled down over the course of the years. In the end of 2008, well, actually beginning 2008, end of 2008, and in 2009, GE Money divested of a number of business units. We already discussed the reorganization of the capital business and the fact that GE Money now aligns under the capital umbrella, which includes partner businesses such as commercial finance, energy financial services, corporate treasury, and a number of other businesses, which really allows the company to best utilize that strong financial services leadership team and maximize efficiencies and synergies. GE Money rebranded as GE Retail Finance, and hiring volumes continued to reduce. As you can see, at one point we were hiring upwards of 1,000 candidates or 1,000 employees in a year. In 2009, we hired merely 175. However, the interesting piece of that is that the Kelly RPO team has been able to help us maintain and even reduce our cost per hire. So you may wonder, well, how does that happen? If you're in an environment where your hiring continues to go down, what do you do with the folks that were doing the hiring before? It all goes back to that scalable and flexible model that we have. Because we don't have full life cycle recruiters who may handle, let's say, 20 jobs each, we have the business model where the recruiting consultants are aligned by business. We are able to scale the shared services group accordingly, and we've been able to greatly reduce the usage of the team in certain areas in order to maintain our cost per hire and, of course, actually reduce it. Search firm fees also fall into that. To some extent, it is based on the economy. There isn't the need to bring in external talent. A lot of the movement is internal. But as I mentioned earlier, we only had one search firm hire over the course of this year in 2009, and there won't be any additional. And that was a very strategic direction that the business took with that particular hire. The rest are candidates, the rest of the external candidates are those that are coming through the partnership with the Kelly RPO sourcing center and that shared services component. VOC remains very high, 4.7, which is pretty much where we've seen it over the course of the past few years. And cycle time remains very good at 45 days. And typically we're seeing cycle times go up based on the economy. Many companies are not moving quickly on candidates these days because they want to be very careful about their hiring decision. That's definitely the case with the GE, now retail finance business, formerly GE Money. Although they are very, very careful about hiring, we also are assured that when a position is posted, based on the work we did during our lean workout in order to create an appropriate posting process, all of the positions that the Kelly RPO team are working are necessary to be worked. All of the positions that we post ultimately should be filled. And they should be filled quickly because we've done the appropriate analysis to assure that the position description is correct. The hard skills that we've outlined are the necessary hard skills for the business, and that we know we are going to need that talent based on the direction that the business is taking. So through all of those initiatives, in a very, very difficult economic climate, and some major changes for the organization, the results have continued to improve. Overall, there's been a number of contributions that this partnership has seen. The continuous improvement is really the overarching theme throughout the course of our relationship, as well as sustainability and scalability. At GE, we'll continue to demand more from outsource partners as new challenges surface. With Kelly RPO as a partner, we look forward to those continued improvements and the ability to flex and scale as needed. And through that flexibility, scalability, and strategic thinking, the team really continues to contribute to the talent acquisition process. We've increased customer satisfaction, reduced cycle times, improved many processes, and educated the business around talent acquisition and why certain things needed to be done in a certain way in order to achieve the best results while providing candidates with a very positive experience through the process. As I mentioned earlier, we've reduced cancellations throughout the course of the years, and that has supported a great deal of our cost savings initiatives, and I call that proactive cost management. And then we've improved search strategies as partners together in order to take this program to an all-time high level. I think an aggregate of the results really speak for themselves. We've seen continued improvement through the cost reduction, the cycle time reduction, and the increased customer satisfaction over the course of the years. And today, unlike 2005 and 2006, where volume goes up, we don't necessarily see our costs go up any longer. And where volume goes down, we don't see our costs go down. We've come to a place where we're able to sustain our cost per hire based on the flexibility and scalability of the team. And that's really key to the relationship today in this unforgiving and very volatile time. It's been imperative that we are able to maintain these costs and manage our process in order to continue to achieve the satisfaction of both the hiring community and the candidate community. And finally, I'll leave you with a few thoughts on the keys to a successful partnership. Really looking for that cultural fit. We partnered so that we could execute on SLAs that set us apart from the pack, and from a GE perspective, assured that GE was seen as an employer of choice. As Zachary mentioned in the beginning of this conversation, the important part to remember about an RPO partner is that they take on the persona of the business, unlike a search firm that acts on behalf of the business. So our candidates and some of our hiring community have no idea that the Kelly RPO team is an outsourced partner. They're on GE tools, they use GE technology, they have GE email addresses, and they act on our behalf, on GE's behalf, in order to provide the talent acquisition services to the business. In that, we achieve a consistent process for our candidates and provide them with a great experience, and in turn make the hiring community, or satisfy the hiring community throughout the process. I spoke to that partnership, the stakeholder support, which is really key. And defining the needs was the first step in achieving that stakeholder support, because result effectiveness is equal to the solution quality, and the acceptance of the idea. So when this program was launched, it was imperative that we had a quality solution and that our stakeholders bought into it. And throughout the course of the 8 years, that effectiveness has shown through. The capabilities of the partner, of course, are incredibly important, and that is shown through really the ability to execute, the track record of performance that partner has. And as you've seen through all of the metrics that we've displayed today, the team has been able to improve the metrics over the course of our relationship, and has really done a phenomenal job supporting the talent acquisition program within the GE Now Retail Finance organization. So with that, I've left a good amount of time for questions. So both Zachary and I are available if anyone has any questions for us at this time.
Thanks, Claudine. This is Zachary, and I think sorry I made you do so much talking, but you've lived this as well as we both have, and people like to hear oftentimes from the client perspective in how they're engaged and what they see and how they measure success. So I think you hit on many good points, and it's not just about at the end of the day, Claudine referenced many things and changes not only within the culture, but just based on how technology has changed and candidate lifestyles as well, and how we're able to adapt to that, be flexible and scalable to meet the needs of our clients. And I think that's what a big component of a successful relationship is. It's continuing to challenge yourself and not get caught up in the status quo, because if you don't change, your culture will, technology will, candidate interests and behaviors will. So trying to be one step ahead of the game is certainly something you need to constantly keep top of mind. And on that note, we will, my email is miskoza@kellyocg.com. If you do have any questions as a follow-up to this presentation, please feel free to email me. I'll work with Claudine and her and or I will ensure to get back to you. If you'd like some additional information on Kelly OCG, you can visit our website at www.kellyocg.com. We do have several archive webcasts available in which we delve a little deeper into Lean and our journey in using Lean within a business process and talent acquisition, as well as several case studies available for you to better understand not only GE Money. I know there's a nice case study on GE Money as well if you'd like to view that and print that out to share with others. There are several other client case studies as well, so it can be demonstrated how we've worked with companies in very different industries and with very different needs as well. So again, thank you, Claudine. Thank you, Best Practice Institute, and for the attendees and taking your time to listen to what we have to say about our journey within the talent acquisition strategy and process. Have a great day.
Thank you, Zachary, and thank you, Claudine. This has been another Best Practice Institute webinar, and thank you again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.